The other reason I want to do this call is like a lot of copywriters are autodidacts, right? Meaning we just jump in because we're like, oh, actually, I'm kind of curious if you put in the chat, what got you into copywriting? Was it a product, a book, a specific person? Digital marketing, just love writing. AWAI, Jason Capital, content, social media marketing, saw an ad for a course, Stefan, RMBC, yeah. NetBot Consent's first ad. So a lot of us is like, we see an ad or we just have some sort of desire, we start going down this path. And everything that we learn is like, we're all self-taught to a degree, right? So we just start reading books. We look up what are the best copywriting books, right? We read Cash Advertising, or we read, Victor Schwab, or we read Claude Hopkins. And, and then if we keep pushing forward, some of us go and we get clients and we start working with clients. And one of the big things that I hear a lot of times is like, I feel like I don't understand the fundamentals, right? I'm kind of just like faking it a little bit. And some of that's imposter syndrome. Some of that's in your head. Ivan, I'm curious what you mean by the Gary Halbert challenge. Is that the hand copying one? The specific sales letter?
Yeah, the one where you can copy a bunch of old sales letters.
Yeah, I actually did that one way back when I first started, which is helpful. But regardless, it's like a lot of people, they get to a point where they're like, I don't really understand what the fundamentals are or what I'm doing. I understand a lot of different tactics and tips, but I don't understand how everything hangs together. So that's what we're trying to go through here, right? So I'm just going to riff and talk through a lot of things that I think are really important that helped me. And I think it takes some time and practice to really understand these, but we'll go through it and then we'll look at some examples. So let's start with like what the foundations are. In my opinion, what the 6 core skills and core things that you need to master as a copywriter. And my ultimate goal is, as things go on, is to have the best resources ever made on each one of these topics that are very, very straightforward, and then also give you an opportunity to practice it and get feedback on it. That way you're not just reading about it or not just watching a video, but you can actually put it into practice and get feedback, because that's how you get better. But these right here are the 6 persuasion essentials. Everyone has their different breakdowns. Some people call them 4 or 5 or 6, but pretty much anybody who talks about persuasion, especially in copy, is going to talk about these different principles here. And what's really cool is that, it's easy to get bogged down with like the details. It's easy to get bogged down with little tricks and copywriting hacks and things like that. But the thing is, if you just master these fundamentals here, there are like copywriters in CA Pro who are making multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, and they have some successes, right? But still, they'll submit their copy, and a lot of times they're just missing some of the fundamentals that are on here, right? And so the copywriters who are in Genesis, who really take the time and put their own effort outside of the materials we're providing, because I'm trying to provide everything, we're trying to provide everything you need. But those who like make their own effort and their own intentions to master these basics are going to stand, I forgot what the phrase is, but you're going to stand out amongst all the other copywriters, because a lot of people don't have these certain things mastered. But once you do master these basics, then you can layer in all of the other advanced stuff, all the other interesting, tricks and hacks, and then you really stand out because your fundamentals and your foundation is solid. So let's go through what these are. The way I want to frame it, this is actually from Ben Savanga, but he talks about the main objections that people have when they face your advertising. Okay. The main ones are, I don't have time to read this, or I don't have time to watch this. Very, very simple. And that's even more true now than it ever has been in the past. Millions of hours of content being uploaded to YouTube, to TikTok, right? Attention is a very, very scarce resource. So unless you find a way to suck in their attention and get them to watch it, your ad really has it's never going to work. It doesn't matter how good your offer is. If no one watches it or sees what it is or understands what your product is, it doesn't matter. The next objection is like, I just don't have interest in this, right? Got to be a Netflix level script writer. Yeah, almost. Almost. I don't perceive any difference between you and everybody else. I don't believe what you're telling me, and I don't want to make a decision now. Okay, these are what he calls the 5 different exits. So this is where people exit your copy. They look at it and they're like, oh, it's an ad. I don't have time to read this. I'm done. Or they're like, oh, this doesn't relate to me. I don't have any interest in this. It doesn't benefit me. Boom. I don't perceive any difference. Like I can just go somewhere else. And I don't believe what you're telling me. It sounds like it's made up, blah, blah, blah. Or this is cool, but I just don't want to make a decision right now. And, one of the best things that everyone here can do is to start to study the way, like study your own mind as you start to buy things. So really pay attention and think about that. In fact, when I started my 8-week mentorship, I would always say, what's one thing that you bought recently in the last, actually, let's do this. I think it'll be helpful. What's something that you bought that's like under $100 that you bought recently, maybe in the last month or so, and what made you buy it? If anyone wants to put that in the chat. It's like pretty interesting. Pokemon cards because of the nostalgia. Okay, I can relate to that. Big water bottle to drink more water. Right. Is that to be healthier, to do whatever? Some fancy pajamas for my wife for Christmas. New shakes to look cool. Apartment supplies. I need to furnish my place. Books and more books. Todd Brown swipe file. Supplement to help me sleep. Protein to get ripped. Some toys for my kid. Fast fashion sweaters fall apart. Cool. Yeah. Supplements for better sleep. Books to get better. So what's interesting is like when you go through these, all of these, like every single buying decision that most of us have usually stems from some kind of problem that we face, right? Then we have some sort of way that we go and look for the problem, some sort of way to look for a solution, some sort of way to evaluate that solution. What I encourage everyone to do is like pay very close attention to the inner workings of your own mind as you do this, because it will reveal and teach you a lot about copy. Because the funny thing is like when people, this is true with beginners, but like when you jump in, you start writing copy, you forget that you're a consumer. And so you're talking to people in a way that would like, you would never really be sold to. And, the reality is like some of us are not the markets that we're writing to. So it's not like I'm never going to go and buy a weight loss supplement because from a VSL, I'm never going to do that. So I'm not my market. But at the same time, just understanding like how you buy things and your own psychology, it's going to benefit you a lot. So let's go through. So these persuasion essentials here, they're built out of these objections. Okay. Each one of these essentials is meant to target one of these objections. I just added in the second one because I've noticed that's very, very important. Okay. So let's just go through these. So the first one is the big idea. All right. It's kind of a notoriously difficult concept, but we talked about this last time. And the big idea is like, it's just your overarching theme. It's your overarching message. It's your overarching argument for the entire sales process, whether that's in a TSL or a VSL. And, one of the conclusions I kind of came through after the last talk was like, the best way to think about the big idea, I think, is to think about it as the intersection between your market, your prospect, and your product. What's unique about your product, right? What are your best assets? Is it your spokesperson? Is it some new technology? Is it whatever? Then you need to think about your market, right? Where are they at? What other solutions have they been exposed to? What do they think about other solutions? And especially, what do they not like about other solutions? And then from there, you want to think about your prospect, which is, what do they want? What do they really desire? What's cool is that the prospect's goal doesn't really change that much, right? Most people's motivations are they change somewhat with time, but for the most part, those are pretty static. So once you really understand those on a deep level, those don't change as much. What does change is the market, okay, and then obviously the product that you're using. But I think like Dan asked, for an example, I think it was like an options trading software that you can do, and his whole thing was like, oh, what's unique about our product is that we can, do it in 30 minutes a day. And I'm like, that's perfect, because all the other solutions in the market, I don't understand. I haven't written anything for options trading, so I don't know the market as well. But from what I understand is probably a lot of what the market feels is they don't want to have to sit on their computer all day and trade, right? They want to have a life. They don't want to be buried in technical analysis and things like that. There's probably more subtleties to it, but that's definitely part of it. And then what do they want? They just want to trade and make money. They want to live a life, a dream life. So basically you can start to connect the dominoes of option trading. You can start to connect those, right? where it's like, what's unique about the product is that you don't have to spend a lot of time. What the market already doesn't like is spending a lot of time. And what they want to do is they want to make profits. So you could do like, came up with a name like Lunch Break Millionaire or something, which maybe will not be compliant on certain traffic sources. But that at least communicates the big idea that you can center everything around this idea that if you want to be an effective options trader, then you need to trade less, spend less time in front of the computer, and that's how you're going to make more profits, right? And this is the only system that will show you how to get there. So again, when you can connect your product, your prospect, and your market, then you can come up with the big idea. And we have the trainings on that. It's something that you'll start to see over time, and you'll develop your own intuition for. But the big idea, what this does is if you have a big idea, it overcomes the objection of, I don't have time to read this. Okay, because you're presenting some sort of new information that's going to be valuable to them, to help them, etc. All right. The next one here, this is the one that I added. And if you don't get anything from today's talk, like just get this part. Okay, because after working with Stefan and like writing with him, like multiple sales letter every single month, this is my biggest lesson from him, is that your opening in your copy is probably the most important piece of copy, like hands down, especially those first few seconds. They're so vital. And the reason why is very, very simple. If you get 100 people that come to your page, 100 people are going to see your headline and or your lead, right? They might bounce immediately, but they're going to see that. So there's 100 people there. By the time you get through like half your VSL, there's only like 10% of the people left, right? I mean, let's think about it. Conversions are like, 1 to 3% are like pretty good on a long form VSL. So we're only trying to convert 1 to 3% of the people. The opening is the same as the lead. Yeah. So Forrest, the opening is like, it's not quite the same as the lead. So the opening is, in my opinion, the headline, right? As well as the first few seconds or first few lines of your copy. That's what the opening is. It's going to be a different format. So if you have a text sales letter, it's obviously going to be, what do they see above the fold? Or an e-com page, what do they see above the fold? If it's a VSL, sometimes they don't even have headlines. It's going to be the first few seconds, right? The opening. What is the first line? What does the music sound like? That little window, it's could be anywhere from like, 1 to 10 seconds or 10 to, 1 to 15 seconds, but really even less than that. First line of an email, exactly. The first line of an email, including the subject line, and from name. Those are some of the most important factors, because it doesn't matter how good your ad is or how good your offer is. If nobody sees it or they don't stick around, it doesn't matter. And what's crazy is like literally changing. I've seen this because, Stefan's done it multiple times. Is like literally just changing a lead or changing the first few opening lines can create differences, be the difference between, I've seen it lead to like 50% boosts in conversions, 40 to 50% boosts in conversions, which can change everything. Because if you increase those conversions, it means that you're able to obviously get more sales, right? Which means that you're able to buy more traffic, which means you're able to scale more, etc. So Forrest said eyebrow copy, headline would be described as the opening. Yes. So if you're looking at a text sales letter, for me, it would be the headline, eyebrow copy, and the first few lines of copy itself. Okay. Whatever it is that people are seeing for the first time, that's what the opening is. And it needs to be very impactful. And I'll give you some different templates for this as well as some different principles, so you can start thinking about what these leads are. And we'll show you more examples. And we'll be covering leads within like the Monday gospel calls. And then we'll also probably have some specific trainings on leads and have you write some different types of leads and get some feedback on it. Okay. But the biggest thing I can impress on you, for example, when Stefan and I turn in a VSL to a client or write a TSL for a client, we always provide them 2 to 3 lead openings. Okay. And we have a client in Copy Accelerator Pro that we're giving feedback on, and they literally are testing. Right now, they've tested probably 10 different lead variations, and they just commissioned a writer to write 20 leads. And then another company is writing there's probably another 30 to 40 different lead variations within that, right? And they're very, very dialed in. But that's just to show you how important getting that opening line of copy is. It makes such a big difference. So if you get nothing else, just understand, like mastering leads, mastering your openings is really, really key. And also don't waste any time. So we talk about throat clearing in emails or throat clearing in leads, leads that are not impactful, opening lines that just don't hit hard. Those are some of the biggest conversion killers you can think of. Is TSL the same as sales letter? And if so, what is no, it's not a dumb question. Text. So TSL is a text sales letter, just text. And then a VSL is a video sales letter. So it's in video. Cool. One of the concepts that we'll explore later on is this idea of entering the conversation in the mind. If you guys don't know Robert Collier, that's one of the classics of direct response. I'm gonna try to get a summary to everyone here so you don't have to spend the time. It's a pretty dense book, but one of his biggest principles is talking about entering the conversation in the mind. It's a really good metaphor. He basically says, like, imagine that your prospects are having a conversation in the bar. Okay. That's what's going on inside your prospect's head. They're always thinking about their problems. They're thinking about their situation. They're thinking about their goals. They're thinking about their aspirations, whatever that is. So your job as a marketer is to enter that conversation in the mind, right? You want to find something that's congruent, some way that you can connect with them on whatever they're already thinking, and then bring that to your sale. What too many copywriters or marketers, people try to do is they just try to jump right in and present their offer or present their sale, right? They're so eager to get to, here's what I have to give to you, versus starting with what is the prospect already thinking about, right? What's in their mind. In some cases, it's going to be motivation to achieve something. In some cases, it's going to be the specific obstacle that they're facing. In some cases, it's going to be something else. Let me think of an example, a good example for this. I'll come back to it in a second. So this is really valuable. Nothing is as key as your headline and lead. Nothing is the gateway to your copy. So remember these things here. Master the big idea, master the opening. If you get these two things, you are very well on your way. Okay, the next one, this one's a little more straightforward, but you'd be surprised how many people miss it. And this is the idea of the big problem and the big promise. So every bit of every bit of good sales copy or every motivation, every sale, it's always going to start from a specific problem that people have. Okay, so problems, if there's no problems, then there's really no sales. And people have different kinds of problems. People have problems on, like I said, obstacles to achieving some kind of goal, or negative emotional problems, whatever it is. So they face some sort of problem. It's really, really key for you to understand. And actually, the biggest theme from all of this, and the biggest thing that I've experienced, is mastery as a copywriter and as a marketer, but as a copywriter, comes down to how precisely do you know your prospect, and how precisely can you communicate their problem and your solution to them. It's really, for me, it's a matter of precision. It's not a matter of fancy tricks. It's not a matter of being an amazing writer. It's not a matter of whatever. It's a matter of really how precisely do you understand your prospect. And it's amazing how like, I'm going to show you some examples from other people saying the same thing, but it's like, you need to go deeper than you think possible, or deeper than you are already thinking about. If you understand your prospect better than they even understand themselves, then the selling process becomes very, very easy. Okay? And that's the thing to master. Understand what they want, understand what their needs are, etc. So you have the big problem, and then you want to come up with whatever your big promise is. Okay, the big things you probably heard is like sell benefits, not features, which basically means you want to talk about what you're going to give to people, what you're going to get, and less about how you're going to get them there. Okay, so for many of the people here, it's like you guys want to make $10,000 a month, writing copy. For a lot of people here, that would be an ideal goal, ideal dream. And we can talk about all the ways that we get you there, but what you're more interested in is simply being there, right? That's the goal. That's the promise that we want to make to you within Genesis, right? And obviously there's different levels. So that's the promise we want to make. when it comes to the problem, right, and the promise, this is your pain and your benefit language. The biggest thing that everyone here can focus on is twofold. One is going beyond the surface, so going deeper, right? People want different things. So let's think about everyone in here, for instance, right? And let's think about the promise of, oh, I want to make $10,000 a month as a copywriter. There are many, many layers to that beyond $10,000 a month as copywriter. What does that mean for many of the people here? Like try to go deep within yourself, or think about it and throw it in the chat. What does that mean? What's the deeper motivation beyond that surface level promise? Less stress and worry. Take care of my family. I want to make my daughter proud. Freedom, owning my time, freedom to travel, options, more free time, financial peace, security and ability to travel, financial security, providing for loved ones. Yep. Yes. So there's a lot of layers, like a lot of layers to this, and people are motivated by different things. Some people, for instance, like some men are just motivated by, I want to have money to impress women, right? It seems very basic, but from a biological perspective, that's a lot of the big reality, right? That's why a lot of gurus get chicks. It works, yeah. Get money, I'm going to have some sort of status, and then people are going to love me, right? 6 figures is sexy, exactly. You look good with money on. It's a big motivation for men, whether or not they admit it. But there's tons of other motivations, like we put here. Yeah, women want security. I agree with that. Sex figures, yeah. So there's a lot of different layers. People want to provide for their family. And the layers go even deeper. Like a lot of people here want to feel like they didn't fail, right? They want to feel like they, if, for example, you set out to be a copywriter, you want to prove other people wrong. Yeah, exactly. I prove people wrong. I was a role model to others. People want freedom. People want choices. People want to be able to travel. But the thing is, like, the deeper that you're able to go, feeling of accomplishment, exactly. The deeper that you're able to go with the psychology of the benefits and the psychology of the pains, the more effective your copy will be. Okay, with a caveat, you sometimes you have to use misdirection, right? Or you have to be indirect with some of the things that you say. So if for example, you're talking to men who want to make money, you can't just come out and be like, look, make 6 figures and you'll get any woman you want and blah, blah, blah. But you can imply it with certain things, right? You can imply it. And that's because a lot of the things that people want, they don't even admit to themselves. Right? They're not going to admit that they want these things. And that goes to like one of the principles we'll talk about a little bit later, which is like, you have to embrace reality. That's one of the things with copywriters. I believe this is why so many copywriters are also comedians, right? And actually, when I hang out with copywriters, the biggest thing I notice about them personality wise is a lot of them are very apolitical to a degree. And a lot of them are, they remind me of comedians in a lot of ways. And the reason why is because both comedians and I think copywriters, you have to be able to look at human nature in the face, recognize that there's some pretty and not some pretty things in there, recognize that people have different beliefs. And you also need to have a lot of like cognitive flexibility. You need to be able to see things from a lot of different points of view without judging them. Yeah, a little bit of objectivity. We're never really going to fully get it, but you have to learn to embrace that and understand. It does build empathy because you start to understand. I mean, Stefan built a $23 million company selling supplements to Christians. And I think he was raised that, but he's not a Christian, right? But you still have to adopt that worldview. So that's a really important principle. We'll come back to that as well. So my biggest thing is go deep, go down to the actual layers. And hopefully we'll do some calls on this, like breaking it down and giving you some different frameworks so that you'll understand like how to go deeper. But for now, just realize that there are layers to the motivations, and the deeper that you can go and the deeper you can talk to those layers, the stronger your copy will be. The second thing is to make your promises and your benefits concrete, okay, and dimensionalized. Do you guys know what dimensionalization is? Have I mentioned that before? Okay, so dimensionalization, like five senses type thing. Exactly. Yeah, if anyone wants to type in the chat their definition of dimensionalization, that's key. The benefit behind the benefit, to a degree. My whole thing is like describing how it looks on a day-to-day basis. Yeah, exactly. So visual. So dimensionalization basically means like you're going to promise a benefit. So let's do a quick exercise. Let's say, for instance, again, just coming back here, making 10K a month. What does that look like? How can we go a level deeper, right? What scenario could we paint that incorporates some of the senses, right? Visual is often the most important one because like I think like 50% or 80% of our brain is the visual cortex. I forget what amount, but some big amount. So visual is very, very important. But type in the chat, like what's a way to present 10K a month in a example? Don't have to hover over price tags, right? You never have to look at the right side of a menu. Okay. Waking up excited about life, knowing I'm secure financially. Imagine being free of the constant worry, kicking back in your chair, and pay your bills without worrying about it next month. Right. So all of these are good, but I would challenge everyone here. We'd still go a little bit deeper. Like if you paint the picture, again, you don't need to do this all the time in your copy, but you need to have the ability to do it and sprinkle it in, right? Instead of freedom to take kids to school, it's like, imagine waking up at whatever AM, feeling completely stress-free, right? And as you walk downstairs, you go and you get, you take your kids, you drive your kids to school, you're 100% present because nothing's weighing in the back of your mind. You're able to drop them off. Come back, spend time, etc. When you need to go pick them up, you're able to drop what you do because you have complete control of your schedule, etc. Not having anxiety every time you run your credit card at the grocery store. That's exactly it, right? You could also say, and when you're on that date at Nobu Sushi, right, and you hand over your your Amex whatever something card, right, your heavy metal credit card, and you see the way your date looks at you, right, and you just pay the bill without even looking at the receipt. That communicates a lot, that dimensionalization. Here's actually a quick example. Let me see. Simply unravel the layers of everyday life. Yeah, paint that picture for people. It's so many copywriters don't do this. And it makes such a big difference. I know Stefan is a part owner in a generously tipping too. Yeah. Stefan's a part owner in a cannabis or like a CBD company. And all they did was they added in what's called future pacing, which is a lot of like, imagine this, imagine that, imagine that. They added a lot of that future pacing to the bottom of the lead and boosted conversions by some 2-digit percent. I think it was like close to 40-50%. I don't want to say the wrong thing. But it's so powerful and it's very, very underutilized. So often I just look at copy and I'm like, oh, your benefits are just not strong enough. It's an NLP thing, right? I'm not like NLP certified. I'd love to be at some point. I think there is some NLP to it, but I also think it's just communication, Most of the programs I bought have used future pacing in the sales letter. It's very, very powerful. I'm going to show you a quick example here. This is from a joint product, don't share it, but this one did really good. It's for, it beat the control and it was like something a lot of people try to do. And one thing I really went hard on was dimensionalization and future pacing. Let me see. All right, here we go. I'm going to share it. Don't share it with anybody else. So this is for a joint product, right? Literally in just 1 week from now, you could find yourself waking up and climbing out of bed without any soreness for the first time in years. You'll walk down the stairs to your kitchen with ease. And as you sip your morning coffee and plan your day, suddenly every possibility is open back up to you. Maybe you get back to digging around your backyard garden, or spending the day playing with your grandkids at the park, or cooking a large meal for family and friends, or finally enjoying that vacation with your spouse because this time you'll actually be able to enjoy it. Think about how good it will feel to be independent, self-sufficient, and free to move in your own body again. That's the reality that could be waiting for you inside this video. Okay. I mean, even so, this is not super in depth. It's just a few lines of copy. I'm not even painting that detailed of a visual story, but copy like this is very, very powerful, right? Literally from one now, you can find yourself doing that. Let me find another example real quick. Apologies for the noise as well. Let's see. How do you know broad versus narrow to go with feature pacing? One of the structures that I like to use is I like to give general benefit, and then I like to dimensionalize it in threes, right? The rules of three is really, really powerful. So when you give benefits or pains, I like to do it in threes. You don't have to do it in threes, but it's just a nice little framework to have in your mind. And then I like to sort of summarize it, okay? And so the layers are typically generic benefit, dimensionalization, and then the way that it makes you feel. So for example, if I were to talk about making 10K a month, and be like, imagine making 10K a month consistently every single month on autopilot, knowing that it's going directly into your bank account. Right, actually, let me write it down here so you can see. So and then it'd be like, imagine making 10 every single month, knowing it's going directly into your banking account, right? Blah, 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 etc. And then you can come back in like, that's what's waiting for you, blah, blah, blah. So one thing I like to do, again, I just kind of like spit this out, but basically I like to start with general claim, and then I'll go into specifics, right? And I like to use like 3 different types of specifics. So like here, you can paint it out, and then you come back and like, and tie it all in together. Okay, so generic benefit, dimensionalize in threes, how it makes them feel, summarize. Yeah, and nothing is really formulaic. Eventually, this is why templates and things, they're really cool. I want to give you templates, but over time, it's like better to learn the skill because it's just faster. Because there's so many nuances when it comes to dealing with people and dealing with products and changing things, that like templates are great, but it's actually way faster and easier to just figure out how to do the skill yourself, and you don't have to worry about the templates. Okay, and they're awesome. We're going to provide you with those, but I want to teach you how to like just do it yourself, because again, you'll be able to spit it out and it'll be so much better. So again, but this is a nice framework that I like to use: generic benefit, dimensionalize in threes, how it makes them feel. I can actually show you. Yeah, I'll show you some more, but yeah, rules of threes is pretty good. And then somebody said making these benefits more visual comes down to deeper research. It does come down to deeper research, but you'll actually be surprised how much you already know. Okay, and another thing that I got from Chris Haddad was like, actually, there's that old Hemingway quote, which is like, oh, writing is easy. All you have to do is sit down and bleed, right? And that's like his whole thing. Chris Haddad says something interesting too, which is like, you know, you have to get to a point where you understand that human nature is really not all that different, right? I think men and women have a lot of times different experiences. I think that's just the reality, whether it's cultural or biological or both. Like, they tend to have different experiences, and a lot of humans have different experiences, but fundamentally, we're more alike than we are different. So a lot of your own inner problems can be directly translated to other people. A lot of us know what it's like to feel shame. A lot of us know what it's like to feel embarrassed. We know what it's like to feel angry. We know what it's like to, you know, be envious of somebody else who has something that we want to have and we don't have, right? We know, we're familiar with a lot of negative emotions. A lot of us have suffered from loss, a lot of us, etc. If you're able to tap into that and tap into your own feelings and face them very openly and translate those feelings that you have to your copy, it's going to make it so much more powerful, right? I've had moments when I've written copy and like it was personal, right? I was writing to them, but it was coming from a me place. Like, I related. I know exactly what this feels like and the frustration and things like that. The more you can do that, the better your copy will be. I forgot the question or what I was talking about. Oh, so basically, yes, the research is really, really key because you want to understand how people think and you want to detect patterns. But the way I like to do it is like fill your brain with those patterns. And then when you go down to write, just put it outside your head and just try to connect with them. Use your imagination, pray to God, whatever it is, just try to connect to them. And it'll make your stuff a lot better. Because I think if you try to be too logical, can you hear me? Everyone hear me? Okay. I don't know, Lori, if that's a problem on your end. But if you write too logical and it's too in your head, sometimes it'll mess you up. Okay. So fill your mind with the research and everything, and then let it sort of float from there. All right. So this is the big problem, the big promise. Make it as precise and deep as possible. Focus on the layers of their desire. Make sure to dimensionalize and make it concrete. Lean more on the promises, future pacing than anything else. So one of the big things that we look at in copy, this is not 100% true because there's nuances, but in general, a lot of times what people do is they'll start like a sales letter or a VSL or even an email, and they'll just dig in the pain, and they don't promise any sort of solution, right? And you can even look at the ratio of their writing. How much of it is talking about the pain point versus talking about the solution? And it's pretty surprising because most people, they want to hear more about the solution and the promise and the benefits than they do the pain. You do need to articulate the pain because you do need to make them understand. You want to make them understand that you know, or you want them to know that you understand what their pain is. Because if you can understand it and articulate it, that means that you likely have the solution for it, right? And they build trust and rapport. They also typically, depending on the market, they want an explanation for their pain. They want to know why they have the pain. And also, if they feel guilty for it, a lot of times you need to relieve them of that guilt. Okay, that's another part of it. And then what you want to do is just hammer home the benefits and the promises, right? Almost in a hypnotic way. That tends to be a lot more powerful. Let's see. Somebody asked, which part of the copy should you future paste this hard? I will show you right now. Hold on. Okay, you all can see this, right? This is the RMBC thing you have access to. But the pace, this is in a sales letter, right? In an email, it's going to be different. Like in an email, I don't think you want to lead with it. You want to kind of lead with your hook, your opening, lean into it, promises, and then you can dimensionalize a little bit. But in a sales letter or a VSL, in the lead, the place that I like to do it is like towards the end of the lead. So like right at the end of the lead, right before you're about to like transition to the story, that's where I future pace, sort of towards the end when you warm them up a little bit. The other place I like to do it is at the close. I like to do it at the end of something called the crossroads close, which we'll cover. very simple. You have two choices. Either you don't buy this product and you go to hell, or you buy this product and you go to heaven. Okay. Obviously you don't say that, but that's sort of the basic like framework of it, right? The crossroads closed, two roads, and then you got to choose which one you want to go down. And I like to do a lot of future pacing there, as well as a little bit before I introduce the price to kind of get them excited again. Those are the places where I stack it the most. So big promise, big benefit. The next one is unique mechanism. Okay. We're covering this. That's what Stefan covered this week on Monday, right? Was the mechanism? Was it useful to everyone here? Okay, cool. Good. Yeah. Stefan, like the thing is different copywriters, they have different attributes, right? I want to make like copywriter playing cards, and everyone's got different strengths and different skills. Some people are really masters at using emotion and storytelling, right? And benefit driven. Some people are really masters at curiosity and mechanisms. I would put Stefan, and the best copywriters are good at everything, but Stefan is really, really good at the mechanism and the big idea. Probably one of the best like I've ever seen. He's able to spit these things out, make them really, really compelling. And a lot of his copy really leans on the curiosity around some sort of new mechanism and big idea. So the ability to learn from him is very, very powerful. And mastering this part, again, some people put different emphasis on different parts. My whole thing is like, I want to master every single part, right? I want to be good. I want to be good at defense. I want to be good at offense. I want to be good at, throwing my punches. I want to be good at my kicks. I want to be good at everything. So the unique mechanism is basically, how does your product work? How does it get them to the results? And then the unique part is it needs to be different. And why is it important for your mechanism to be unique? I know it's a very basic question, but it's still important. Why is it important for your mechanism to be unique? More attractive, differentiate from other competition, makes you stand out. No one will try what they tried before. Exactly. All right. Most people have tried, exactly. Most people have tried something in the past and it didn't work for them. And when it doesn't work for them, sometimes they just blame the product, right? The product sucks and they get mad at the product. Other times they just blame themselves. Okay. There's some distinctions there. But in either case, when you're presenting your product, you need to say, here's why my product is going to work when other products didn't work for you, or here's why my product is going to work for you, even when you didn't work for you in the past, right? It eliminates you from the whole process. So that's the unique mechanism. We need to understand, V-Shreds, VSLs are great examples of this. Exactly, because Mario wrote most of them. So unique mechanism. Mario and Stefan wrote a lot of those, or copy chiefdom at least. So understanding the mechanism is cool, and then making it unique is really, really powerful. There's a lot that goes into mechanisms, and you have trainings on it, and we're going to give you some more specific trainings down the road, right, as we master these fundamentals. The biggest thing that I can tell you right now is that it needs to be new, simple, and intuitive. Okay, new, simple, and intuitive. If you can hit those, you have a good mechanism. If your mechanism is not new, it doesn't have any life right out the gate. Okay, so let's think about, like, someone give me a market. Let me see if I know. Just throw out some kind of market. Cannabis therapy, weight loss, palm reading courses. Let's do, I could do any of these, but because I just have more familiarity with, we could look at dog training, and then we can look at, let's start with gut, just because this is actually a really good example. So let's talk about gut. If I were going to come out and say, hey, I have a probiotic I want to sell you, is anyone here going to be interested in getting a probiotic? No. I mean, maybe. I mean, Shahid is, but most people are going to say no, right? Yeah, if it's 2005. Probiotic is like, I was like, I'm going to give you a probiotic. Your first thing is going to be like, I don't really need a probiotic, right? I have a probiotic already, right? I've tried, like, that doesn't do anything. What if I'm like, oh, well, I'm going to give you a prebiotic, and probiotic, right? Now that's a little more interesting, but still people know about prebiotics and probiotics, right? What about, I'm going to give you a postbiotic, right? Postbiotic. No, I already have postbiotic. And this is all real stuff. All right. I'm going to give you a synbiotic, right? Which is a synthesis of pre, post, and probiotics, right? Or I'm going to give you, and I don't know what the next one will be, what the next evolution is, but you can see that like at each stage with the gut market, they just continue to expand some sort of new unique mechanism. Okay, some new way to make it work. Oh, the reason probiotics didn't work is you didn't have prebiotics. The reason prebiotics didn't work is because you didn't have postbiotics. The reason that this didn't work is because you didn't actually have synbiotics where they all work together. And markets go through these cycles, etc. See you, Mark. The biggest thing is that you just need to make your unique mechanism new, something you never heard before. Otherwise, it stands no chance. Okay, it's pretty simple, but and you have to know what the market has already heard, and you got to make it new. The next one is you got to make it very simple. Okay, being new by itself is not good enough, because if it's very complicated, people aren't going to understand it. Remember that a big part of the population like reads below a 6th grade reading level. Let me see this real quick. Yeah, so according to this very reputable site that I just Googled, where is it? Yeah, average American reads at 7th to 8th grade level. Okay, that's where they read, 7th to 8th grade level. Plenty of people, that's the average, so plenty of people below that. At the same time, when you're advertising to people, people are not giving you their full attention. They're not reading your ads or consuming your material like it's a textbook, right? So you can't ask them to have effort. So this means that your mechanism needs to be very, very simple. The last stage is that it needs to be intuitive. And this comes with time, but intuitive just means that, for example, one that I always use is like hidden constipation, which is something that Stefan wrote, hidden constipation. Again, it's not super complicated. All he did was take constipation, add hidden to it. But this idea of hidden constipation, it's new. No one's really heard of it before. It's simple, but it's also intuitive because you kind of have an idea of what it is without really understanding it. Another one that I did for this joint one was literally just joint drought. That was kind of the mechanism, right? Joint drought. That was the problem part. Again, insanely simple, right? But it was kind of new. Most people were not talking about like joint drought and hydration and things like that. So mechanism doesn't need to be crazy. It doesn't need to be complicated. It just needs to be new. It needs to be simple. It needs to be intuitive, and we'll have resources on mastering that. But getting this mechanism is what's going to differentiate it from competition, and it needs to be in your sales process. Number 5 is proof. All right, see you, Dan. Happy to have you here. Proof is very valuable as well. We actually just did a call in CA Pro around proof, and we'll probably do another Ascension call where we summarize all of that for you guys here. But proof is really, really powerful. I mean, Bensavenga credited proof to most of his success, right? His whole thing was like, I look for proof more than anything else. I become a hunter of proof. And a lot of copywriters sort of like whiff when it comes to proof, and they get lazy with it. So I'm excited for that Ascension call, because I think you'll see some really powerful ways. Let me see real quick. Maybe I'll pull up some quick things. See you, Rob. Yeah, we'll go more into that later. But basically, this is from the call the other day, but we'll come back to it. 2 things about proof that's important. So one of the best principles that you can get in mind is this idea of having your proof and your claims back to back. Okay. Every time that you make a claim, you should follow that up with some sort of proof. Claim, proof. The analogy that I was communicated with is almost like a Siamese twin. You don't have claim without proof. Okay, because every time you start making claims and stacking claims, people's bullshit meter is going to start to rise off. And then you need to add in proof to sort of relieve them of that. Yep, it's the 1-2 punch. And then, the nuance there is the level of your claim needs to match the level of your proof. Okay, so when you're making strong claims, you need to match that with strong proof. Let me actually, I can show you this example of proof and claims. Okay. Let's get rid of that. I'll show it like this. So this is from a magnesium thing that I wrote recently. And this is just to show you a quick example. The basic idea is that there's something called a toxic mineral overdose, which is basically too much calcium in your body is wreaking havoc on your sleep. And what you need is magnesium to flush it out of your body. Most people think calcium is the good guy. So I don't know if people will believe it, right? Because it has a contrarian benefit, but it's also really hard to convince people that calcium is really good for them. So I knew that I needed a lot of proof for each of these claims. So watch how almost every single claim I make is followed by some kind of proof, and not just one form of proof, not just a study or a quote, but multiple kinds of proof, demonstration, images, quotations, arguments, etc. So let's look through it. Too much of this toxic mineral overdose can wreak havoc on your sleep. That's because it floods your body with stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. And I add that in right here. Okay, then I also give a quote, which obviously makes it impossible to sleep. Then it hijacks the parasympathetic nervous system, also known as your stress system, which keeps you irritable and on edge all day. Finally, it actually causes cellular stress, which gets you more tired, sluggish, and even feel like you're aging faster. That's just the beginning, though, because toxic calcium also messes with your pineal gland. If you don't know, this tiny little gland controls your circadian rhythm, and it's what helps make important sleep hormones like GABA and natural melatonin. Unfortunately, like I said, too much calcium causes this gland to harden up and calcify. Here, take a look. And here's an image, calcification. Here's something from the Cleveland Clinic. Pineal gland calcification, it happens when calcium builds up in body tissue, causing the tissue to harden. Scary stuff, right? So is it really any wonder that excess calcium has been linked to sleep problems over and over? Here's another study that found calcium led to difficulty falling asleep. And then I just led with a bunch of studies. Okay, then we go even deeper. Even the so-called connection between calcium and strong bones is misleading at best. Because while it's true that bones are made up of calcium, it does not mean that taking calcium makes stronger bones. In fact, in 1974, the FTC actually forced milk producers to stop their false, misleading, and deceptive advertising around calcium, because brittle bones aren't caused by a lack of calcium, it's caused by calcium leaving the bones. We have 2 quotes from people at Cornell and Harvard. I could go on and on with studies like this, but for time's sake, I'll just leave you with a couple quotes that sum up my position. Here's our quotes. And then we keep going. A ton of science around the benefits of calcium are actually funded by big dairy companies. I know that sounds nuts, conspiratorial even, but just look at the facts. For one, the dairy industry is estimated to be about $824 billion, or roughly the entire GDP of the Netherlands. So there's a lot of incentive there. Then let's take a look around science. Take this one, for example. It's a landmark study that showed calcium could help with everything from brittle bones to kidney problems, fat loss, even high blood sugar. In other words, a miracle compound. And yet, when you look at the fine print, boom, has been funded by the National Dairy Council. Surprise, surprise. And that's hardly the only study like that. According to best-selling author and board-certified MD, Dr. Robert Thomas, here's our quote, pretty damning, right? So there's a lot of layers between all of this, and I'm really going hard because I'm trying to convince something people have believed for years. I don't know if it'll work, but this is the best thing. I'm not going to link to this one just because I'll link to the DR, the fundamentals, but not this specific one. Just because I don't want to share the whole thing with you guys, but hopefully you can just see that proof and claims, they need to go back to back. If I'm saying it floods your body with stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, I want to give you proof right here, okay, right in the title. If I'm saying that it hardens your pineal gland and causes it to calcify, boom, I want to show you a picture. I want to show you a quote from a reputable source, okay? If I'm telling you that it's misleading, the connection between calcium and strong bones, I want to give you this argument here. I want to give you this argument here. I want to give you 2 quotes. I want to tell you that I have tons and tons of studies, and then I want to give you even more quotes, etc. The fluoride, yeah, exactly. So regardless, proof and claims go back to back, and it's important to use different kinds of proof, something that we'll be covering and showing to everyone here. But proof is very, very important. There's multiple kinds of proof. And one thing I can share, I'm going to share this with you guys if you're interested. Let's see. Okay. Can you guys see this? No. What does it say? You don't have access? This link here. Sorry, the one I just put, my bad. Are you guys open? Can you guys open it? Okay, cool. So this is cool. Another screaming eagle for you. This is like from Clayton Makepeace, and it talks about all the different types of proof. And this is really powerful. And it starts to open your mind about the different kinds of proof. So really like the 80-20 of understanding how to use good proof is literally, if you remember, there's another one of these. Yeah, there's a lot of these. Okay, which I'll share some of them. There's like dozens of these. And there's actually a book, which I think you might have access to. I'm gonna see if I can find it. That basically is the Bible of direct response and has all these different things in it. I'll see if I can get access to that to you guys. But the biggest thing to remember with proof, like the 80-20 of it, is every time you make a claim, follow it with proof. Okay. The bigger the claim, the more proof you need. The book is Ultimate Desktop Copy. Yeah. So again, claim and proof. The bigger the claim, the bigger your proof needs to be. So try to balance them equally. And then use multiple forms of proof based on this, and you'll be golden. Okay. If you remember those two things, you're already like well above where most people are. Okay. The next one is irresistible offer, right? There's a lot of different talk about offers. I'm sure you've heard of, Hormozi's book, $100 million offers. There's a lot of really powerful stuff in there. The strong guarantee, the price, your price structure, all those things are going to make the irresistible offer itself. We'll talk more about it in general, but I won't go too deep. Really what I want to show you is master these core persuasion essentials. There's only 6 of them. Master these basics and you will put yourself in a league of elite copywriters, okay, and marketers. If you understand how to do these different things, you will set yourself apart, okay? And all you got to do is put it all together from there. I'm going to go quickly through some of these like time-tested principles that are just things that I think are really important that I've learned, and then I'll go through a couple different examples. Okay. So first one is, we've already kind of covered it, but make your copy valuable, right? That's how you get your big idea. Make your copy valuable. The thing is, your value depends on what the prospect finds valuable, not what you find valuable. Okay. So for instance, when I started writing for an e-com product, it's actually the one that you'll be writing for the email prompt number 1. I started sharing all of this different business stuff and how the business worked and things like that. I was like, oh, this is really valuable. I'm giving them information. But then I realized they don't really want information, right? Because these were women who were brand new to the world of e-commerce and brand new to business. Their big fears, the big thing on their mind was like, I just want to provide for my family, but I'm not a business person. I've never done business. I don't understand. I don't think I'm technical enough, etc. They were way more interested in getting motivation than they were information. That was a big mistake that I made. I was like, oh, I thought because I like information, I thought they liked information, but that's not what they want. What they found valuable was motivation. So making your copy valuable, this is really, really key. Sometimes you need to just look back, be honest with yourself, and look at your copy and be like, is this a boring pile of shit? Okay, sorry, but sometimes you got to just do that. If it's boring to you or it's just boring, then how do you expect other people to read it, right? If you're just talking about generic things that people have heard of before, you're not giving any incentive for them to read it. Okay, Ben Settle has this concept of like infotainment, which is some mixture of information and entertainment. And that's really, really valuable. People want to be informed, but they also want to be entertained. They want to be motivated. It's up to you to figure out what your prospect finds valuable, but put that into your copy itself. The next one, sell an idea, not a product. Sell an idea, not a product. Typically with a long form sales letter or VSL, if you just lead with a product, people are going to be like, oh, you're trying to sell me something, and they'll back away. But if you lead with an idea, for example, like the big idea, they'll be like, oh, this is an interesting idea. And once they believe that idea, then buying your product becomes the logical next step. That's how you want to do it. So it requires a little bit of finesse, because when you first start out, you're like, oh, I haven't even talked about my product for 25 minutes. And it's like, yeah, you shouldn't have. You want to talk about them. You want to talk about their worldview. You want to give them a new piece of information, create a world for them. And then it makes buying your product inevitable. Next one, put almost all of your focus on the prospect themselves. We already talked about this, but this is from Benzavenga. Think like a fish, not a fisherman. The more you really focus on them, the more precisely you know them, the more you can get, the more you can sell them, basically. Find out what people want and show them how to get it. Really key. Next one, don't manipulate or create an adversarial relationship. Sometimes, it's easy to come into your copy and think that you have to just like argue with them and try to convince them or try to force them. But what you have to realize is that Stefan is really good at this too. The best copy you ever read is very just like, think about how you feel. If someone comes up to you and is like, here, buy this thing, like nobody likes that. You just immediately have resistance. You immediately want to push them away. You don't want to be talked to, you don't want to be harassed. But if someone comes up to you and is kind and gentle and not forceful, right? People hate feeling like they're being forced. So the best copy I see has this attitude. It's very gentle. It's just explaining what you need to do, even if it is like hardcore, right? Even if it's hardcore pushing you, right? In some cases, for the most part, it's pretty gentle. There's nuances to this, like in the male market, a lot of men like to be challenged. So you can kind of like, you can beat down men. Look at Andrew Tate, for instance, right? All of Andrew Tate's marketing is like, you're a piece of shit, right? I'm better than you. I'm God. Like I did all this. What are you doing? But that's a lot of men respond to that, right? Because for whatever reason, we respond to that. Women less so. So there's nuances to this. But in any case, even with Tate, for instance, you don't get this feeling. His whole attitude is like, you're a piece of shit. If you want to be a piece of shit, that's cool with you. But whatever. I'm going to choose to live my life like this. And if you want to know how to, then you can follow me. Right. So there's sort of this attitude of I don't need you. Right. Even look at Ben Settle. His whole marketing is sort of like, I'm not trying to sell you anything, right? Here's these products, etc. He takes them from a state of apathy to a state of anger. Yeah, exactly. And then motivates them. State of apathy to a state of anger. Interesting. Sounds like somebody's been reading David Hawkins. So my whole thing is like, you don't need to, yeah, it's true. That's good though. Yeah, apathy to state. I literally just I'm reading Spectrum or Levels of Consciousness right now. And I just read that chapter. So anyway, don't manipulate or create an adversarial relationship, because at the end of the day, you can't get anyone to do anything they don't want to do. All you need to do is connect with them and show them the path to where they need to go, right? But don't get in this. People can feel that in your copy when you start talking about like when you're trying to manipulate them or control them or things like that. So this is why being candid, being open, being honest about things is very, very powerful. But in general, just remember that. Embrace reality. We already talked about that. Sell them what they want. Give them what they need. Yeah, William, they're pretty similar. Those two books, Levels of Energy and the other one. Sell them what they want and give them what they need. Pretty powerful concept. One thing that you'll have to kind of get adjusted to or accustomed to is like, let's say, for instance, that you're selling a program, or let's say, for instance, that you're selling a book. Let's say you're selling a survival book, right? What people will try to do is they'll try to sell the entire book itself. Whereas the appropriate thing is to find what's the most interesting thing within the book, the most interesting concept within the book, sell that idea, then tell them they can get it by getting this book, and here's everything else that you'll get. Okay. So the whole thing is like, some people, they try to sell everything all at once, but sometimes you just need to sell one aspect of your product. Does that make sense? Sell one part of your product versus try to sell the entire thing. Okay. Yeah. And then sell them what they want. This is slightly different given than what they need is like, let's think about a dating product. A lot of what these men need is they need mindset. They need to get their identity right. They need to probably go to the gym and get those things, etc. But what they want is they want some sort of hack. They want things that they can say, things that are low hanging fruit. So what you can do is you can sell them again what they want and then give them what they need. How to say the ingredients of a supplement. Joaquin, what I would say for you is you want to focus on the most unique ingredient that you have. If you don't have an ingredient that's unique, then you want to focus on a combination of ingredients that's unique. If you don't have a combination of ingredients that's unique, you want to take the most unique ingredient you have or most unique combination, and then you want to present it in a way that's never been heard of before. You don't need to say that it's impossible to get them alone. You just need to be like, here's a really good offer and mine's the best quality, and give some arguments for that, something like that. People hate being sold to, but love being sold. Okay. This is a classic one. This is why disguising your sales vehicle is so key. This is why, for instance, back in the direct response days, they try to make their mail look like personal mail versus sales. That's where, Gary Halbert had so much success. Also things like, a magalog, which looks like a magazine, but it's actually selling things, or a VSL, right? Looks like a YouTube video or some informational video, but it's actually selling you something. So disguising your sales vehicle is key. The other one, better thinking, not better writing. I'm not in the camp that like, oh, you don't need to be, you could be a shitty writer. I think the best copywriters I know also are good writers, but I don't think that the writing is as important as the psychology. And I think there are definitely writers out there who are not that great at writing. They don't even have their grammar right, but they understand the psychology really, really well. And that's what matters far, far more. Okay. The other one is to write simply. This is so basic. It's so easy to do, and so many people neglect it. So don't neglect it. Like, write simply. Literally run your stuff through the Hemingway app, and if it's not below grade 3, get it until it's below grade 3. It's the simplest thing you can do. There's very, very few times when you need to be above a grade 3, right? Even if you're explaining the most complicated stuff, keep your stuff simple. Again, you don't want people to have to expend energy because they're not going to like it, and you don't want to make it. A lot of people don't even have a high grade reading level to begin with. So keep your stuff simple. It makes you stand out. So many people, even experienced people, lose this. But Stefan always said, he's like, at one point in his career, he just started writing uber simple, and his conversion, his success skyrocketed. At the same time, be breezy. Let your copy breathe. Let there be a natural rhythm. So for example, like when I say write breezily, like let there be rhythm. Use the rule of 3 that we talked about. Keep your sentences shorter, vary up your sentences. Somebody posted something the other day about using like different rhythms in your sentences instead of having them all be the same length. That was really powerful. I use that example all the time. So you can go back in the group and try to find that. Emotions are primary, but proof is still very, very important. Okay. Which we already covered. Those are some basic principles, as well as the persuasion essentials. If you master these things, especially these 6, you're going to be well on your way to moving forward. Okay. You can check these out. This right here is a really great example from Ogilvy of making. This is actually just a masterclass. Like, I read through this the other day and broke it down, and it's just a masterclass. There's so many amazing things going on here in terms of proof, specificity, concrete examples. It provides a ton of value. It's very meta. Like, for example, here's a quiz talking about how to use a quiz. This present value formula is really interesting. So this is a masterclass, but it's really good for showing how to make your direct response stuff valuable. I recommend everyone read these. These are some of my 2 favorite Gary Halbert letters. So you read this, it's a water ad. And then his challenge is for you to figure out why it was so successful. And then here's his breakdown. Okay. And you'll see that it's very congruent to everything I shared today. I recommend reading those. And then this one here, also, he's basically trying to say, where is it? What separates master copywriters from their lesser brethren? I forgot exactly the phrasing, but it's very powerful, and I would read through it because I think it's going to reinforce everything that we talked about today. Okay, and then you have an example here. This is the opening of the joint sales letter that did really well. And you can look at the headline, and a lot of the principles are in here, right? Including unique mechanism, proof, benefits, pain point, etc. Okay. So that's it for the fundamentals. I know it was a little bit long. Hopefully it was useful, helpful for everyone here. Understanding that it's not that complicated, and putting a lot of your emphasis on mastering these basics is going to help everyone here. Any questions? Cool, glad. Awesome. Happy to hear that. Okay, so we'll end it here, and we have the A-lister. Let me see. Anton, I got your direct message. I will. I'll follow up about the journeyman call a little bit later for those who are on it, and our Upwork RSS link. It should be in the members area where it breaks down how to use it. I don't know if there's a specific link. I think there's a bunch of different RSS feeds you can set up. It's been a while since I set it up, so I don't have a specific link, but check out the members area, and if you still don't have it, then reach out in the group. Sonam says, something I noticed, not sure if it's fully accurate. Proof for negative claims. Let me make sure I understand this. That's an interesting idea. I've never really thought about that, Sonam. But it makes sense. I think when you're talking about like people moving closer towards like a negative claim that they're moving away, it's a very emotional feeling. And I think it's probably easier to convince them because it's a negative emotional state. I think it's easier to like kind of convince them with anecdotes. And like I said, proof comes in all kinds of different forms. But yeah, I think it's a good insight. RSS bot is what works best for Mac for software. Yeah, so try to follow that. If you guys are, I would say make sure to come to the A-lister feedback call. Again, the whole goal is that we don't want to overwhelm you with calls because everyone has to work, right? We should be working and getting clients and things like that. But for the kickoff, I think this will be really valuable. And the A-lister feedback call is basically, it'll just be Mario and myself on the call, but we'll be looking at some of the copy that you guys submitted and giving feedback on that live on the call, just to show you how we think about things. So did you guys get a notification about that? Email about that? Yes. Okay, cool. So hopefully we'll see you then. And that's it. Great hanging out with everybody here, and onwards and upwards. Ciao.